In track and field, greatness usually arrives slowly. Most athletes spend years climbing toward the top, carefully building their reputation one race at a time. But every once in a while, someone appears who completely changes the rhythm of the sport and forces the world to pay attention instantly. Sha'Carri Richardson did not arrive quietly. She exploded onto the track with unmatched confidence, electric speed, and a personality that instantly separated her from everyone around her. At just 19 years old, she was already becoming one of the most recognizable young athletes in the world. Long before the fame and headlines, Sha'Carri's life had already been shaped by hardship and emotional struggle. Born in Dallas, Texas, she grew up facing instability that forced her to mature much earlier than most people her age. Those closest to her understood that behind the confidence and colorful image was a young woman carrying deep emotional weight. During difficult moments in her childhood, running became more than just a sport for her. It became a form of escape, a source of control, and a place where she could transform pain into power. Every sprint gave her a sense of freedom that the outside world often could not provide. Even at a young age, coaches immediately noticed something different about her. It was not just the speed that impressed people, but the aggression and fearlessness in the way she raced. She competed with the confidence of someone who already believed she belonged among the best in the world. By the time she reached Louisiana State University, Sha'Carri Richardson was no longer just another promising sprinter. She was becoming one of the brightest talents in American track and field. Her performances were improving rapidly, and people around the sport began realizing they were witnessing the rise of a potentially historic athlete. Then came 2019, the year that completely changed her life. At the NCAA Championships, the 19-year-old delivered one of the greatest sprinting performances ever seen at the collegiate level. Running the women's 100 meters in 10.75 seconds, she shattered the NCAA record and shocked the entire track world. The performance instantly transformed her into a global sensation. Fans were amazed by her speed, commentators praised her fearlessness, and sponsors suddenly saw the potential for a massive superstar. Almost overnight, Sha'Carri Richardson became one of the most talked about young athletes in sports. But what truly made her impossible to ignore was her personality. She embraced attention instead of avoiding it, wearing bright hair colors, dramatic eyelashes, and long nails while carrying herself with complete confidence. Some people admired her authenticity, while others criticized her for being too loud or too expressive. Sha'Carri never apologized for who she was. She refused to shrink her personality just to make others comfortable. And that confidence became one of the defining parts of her public image. Whether people loved her or hated her, they could not stop talking about her. As the Tokyo Olympics approached, excitement around her continued growing rapidly. Many believed she was destined to become the next face of women's sprinting in the United States. Every race seemed to increase the hype surrounding her future. In 2021, she delivered another unforgettable moment at the United States Olympic trials. Running with explosive speed and complete confidence, she won the women's 100 meters and officially secured her place at the Olympic Games. The celebration afterward instantly became one of the defining sports moments of the year. The victory felt larger than athletics itself. Cameras followed her everywhere. Interviews spread across social media, and millions of people believed they were watching the birth of a new Olympic superstar. Sha'Carri Richardson was no longer just a track athlete. She was becoming a cultural phenomenon. But behind the excitement and celebration, she was privately dealing with devastating emotional pain. Just days before the Olympic trials, Sha'Carri learned that her biological mother had died. The news shattered her emotionally, yet she still stepped onto the track and outran the fastest women in America. For many people, that performance became even more extraordinary after learning the truth behind her emotional state. She was not simply competing against other sprinters. She was trying to survive one of the most painful moments of her life while carrying the pressure of an entire nation's expectations. Then suddenly, everything collapsed. Shortly after qualifying for Tokyo, Sha'Carri tested positive for marijuana and was suspended from Olympic competition. She later admitted using it while trying to cope with the emotional trauma caused by her mother's death. The news exploded across the sports world almost instantly. The athlete expected to become America's next Olympic icon was suddenly banned from competing at the biggest event of her career. What should have been the greatest moment of her life transformed into public heartbreak within days. The reaction around the world was intense and deeply divided. Many people defended her passionately, arguing that marijuana had nothing to do with athletic performance and that the punishment was unfair. Others insisted that rules were rules, regardless of the circumstances behind the violation. Television debates, sports shows, and social media discussions consumed the story for weeks. Millions of people argued about fairness, grief, and whether the punishment fit the situation. But at the center of all the noise stood a grieving 21-year-old athlete watching her Olympic dream disappear in real time. For Sha'Carri, the suspension became far more than just missing the Olympics. It became public humiliation on a global scale, with every emotional reaction and every interview analyzed endlessly by critics. The same confidence people once celebrated was suddenly being mocked across the internet. The pressure only intensified when she returned to competition later that year. In one highly anticipated race against several elite sprinters, she struggled badly and finished far behind the leaders. Critics immediately used the performance as proof that the hype surrounding her had been exaggerated. Public opinion shifted with shocking speed. 1 year earlier, she had been described as the future of women's sprinting. Now, many people openly question whether her career would ever recover from the emotional and professional damage of 2021. The pain of the Olympic ban followed her into 2022. Her performances became inconsistent, and the explosive dominance that once terrified competitors seemed to disappear. Race after race, she searched for rhythm, confidence, and emotional stability. Elite sprinting is brutal because even the smallest drop in confidence becomes visible immediately. At the highest level, races are decided by tiny margins that leave no room for emotional hesitation. Sha'Carri was no longer just fighting opponents on the track. She was fighting doubt inside her own mind. Then came another devastating setback. Sha'Carri failed to qualify for the 2022 World Championships, marking the lowest point of her professional career. For many critics, it felt like confirmation that her moment at the top had already passed. The woman once expected to dominate global sprinting now found herself outside the biggest competition in the sport. The headlines became quieter, the attention slowly faded, and many fans began focusing on newer stars. For the first time in years, Sha'Carri Richardson was no longer the center of the track world. Yet hidden inside that silence was an opportunity to rebuild herself. Without constant headlines and endless public pressure, she finally had space to focus entirely on improving mentally and physically. Instead of responding publicly to criticism, she concentrated on rediscovering the athlete she once was. Training became more disciplined, and her mentality slowly began changing. The confidence that once felt chaotic started becoming more controlled and focused. She was no longer trying to prove herself through words alone. She wanted to let her performances speak for her. Then came 2023, the year that changed everything once again. Entering the World Championships in Budapest, Sha'Carri faced enormous pressure and widespread doubt. Many people respected her talent, but few genuinely believed she could become world champion. What happened next shocked the entire sport. In the women's 100 meters final, Sha'Carri exploded down the track with incredible power and crossed the finish line in 10.65 seconds. Against all expectations, she became world champion. The victory instantly transformed the narrative surrounding her career. After years of criticism, setbacks, and emotional collapse, she had climbed back to the top of global athletics. The same athlete many people had dismissed was suddenly the fastest woman in the world. But the moment represented more than athletic success. It felt like personal redemption. After years of public embarrassment and emotional struggle, every painful headline from 2021 suddenly looked different in the shadow of her comeback. The world also noticed something different about her personality during this period. The confidence remained, but it carried more maturity and emotional control than before. She still embraced her individuality, but now there was visible resilience behind every smile and celebration. Sha'Carri had survived grief, humiliation, criticism, and failure under the brightest spotlight imaginable. Those experiences changed her in ways that no victory alone ever could. She was no longer simply a talented young sprinter. She had become mentally stronger through adversity. As the Paris Olympics approached in 2024, Sha'Carri once again stood among the biggest stars in track and field. This time, however, the pressure felt different from Tokyo. She was no longer the inexperienced young athlete trying to prove she belonged. She had already experienced the highest highs and lowest lows of professional sports. She understood what it felt like to lose everything publicly and rebuild herself from the ground up. That emotional growth gave her a new level of composure after entering Paris. At the Olympics, she delivered another major achievement for her career. Sha'Carri helped secure Olympic gold in the relay while also earning silver in the women's 100 meters. The medals represented a powerful emotional moment, considering everything she had endured just a few years earlier. Only 3 years before, she had watched the Olympics from home after losing her place because of suspension. Now she stood proudly on the Olympic podium as one of the defining athletes of her generation. The comeback felt almost unbelievable, considering how far she had fallen. For many fans, it seemed like the perfect ending to an incredible redemption story. She had risen quickly, fallen painfully, and somehow fought her way back to the top of the sport. It was the kind of journey that felt almost cinematic in its emotional intensity, but real life rarely follows perfect scripts forever. In 2025, Sha'Carri once again faced difficult moments, both on and off the track. Expectations remained extremely high, and every performance continued receiving enormous public attention. At the World Championships, she finished 5th in the women's 100 meters. For most athletes, the result would still be respectable, but Sha'Carri was judged by a completely different standard. Anything short of victory immediately triggered criticism and disappointment. Off the track, further controversy emerged after reports of legal trouble, and an arrest created more turbulence around her public image. The headlines returned, the criticism resurfaced, and questions about her future began appearing once again. Some people wondered whether the emotional pressure surrounding her career had become impossible to escape. But if Sha'Carri Richardson's career has proven anything, it is that her story never moves in straight lines. Every time the world expects her to disappear, she somehow finds a way to fight back again. Her journey has become defined by resilience as much as speed. Instead of retreating after another difficult chapter, she restarted her journey once more in 2026. This time, the comeback began far away from the Olympic spotlight at the historic Stawell Gift in Australia. It was a very different environment from the massive global stages, where most people were used to seeing her compete. Yet even there, Sha'Carri found victory again. The win may not have carried the same attention as an Olympic final or World Championship race, but symbolically, it mattered deeply. It showed that despite everything she had endured, she was still moving forward. For many fans, the moment represented survival more than redemption. Throughout her career, every success had become global celebration, while every failure became worldwide discussion. Few athletes in modern track and field have carried that level of emotional pressure so publicly. That is what makes Sha'Carri Richardson's story so compelling. It is not only about speed, medals, or records. It is about the ability to fall publicly, suffer privately, and still return to compete in front of millions of people. Her journey has never been simple or predictable. It has been emotional, controversial, inspiring, painful, chaotic, and deeply human. Every chapter of her career has revealed another layer of resilience beneath the headlines. She rose faster than almost anyone expected. She fell harder than most athletes could survive. And somehow, through grief, criticism, failure, and pressure, she found a way to rise again. Perhaps that is the true legacy of Sha'Carri Richardson. Not perfection, because her career has never been perfect. Her legacy is persistence in the face of overwhelming public pressure. Long after the races are forgotten and the headlines disappear, people may not remember every medal or every controversy in exact detail, but they will remember the athlete who kept running forward no matter how many times the world tried to stop her.